I'd like to open up the floor to questions now and maybe take a group of 2 or 3 on each time. I think Kate's over there with the mic and someone's at the back over there. Tiffany's at the back with the mic. So who's got questions first? I can see a gentleman here at the front. And then lady there. We'll take those 2. Thank you.
Hi there. My name's David Jones. I'm from the Plastic Oceans Foundation. So we do what it says on the tin. I think one of the things that's been missing here, and it was only really Tom that's alluded to it, is the question of, or the issue of value of plastic. I've just come back from the World Ocean Summit, which was in Bali. So from one meeting to another, it was slightly different there, where I was a guest speaker. And what was interesting there is that the Indonesian government announced a whole load of strategic measures to resolve the issue. At the same time, I then went onto the beach at the Sofitel and filmed the workers burying what they raked up on the beach in holes on the sand. I watched people tip wheelbarrows full of stuff into storm drains. And the problem is that we're all here because we have a concern. But the people who we really need to be looking to or talking to are the people whose main concern is putting food in their mouths and having their children educated. And it's about value. So somehow we need to give value back to those people, but also there's a huge opportunity in terms of value for business. And as we're here talking about business, that's where I think it is. And I remember a couple of years ago speaking with Daniela and talking about the whole issue of shared value. And, you know, for businesses here, I think what I would say is, what you can do is look at how you can gain value out of being sustainable, because it is a profitable business to be had. It's not rocket science. If you go to Germany, you won't find a water bottle on the floor, because it's worth 20 cents if you go into Lidl or Aldi and you stick it into a machine. You know, so those are the sorts of things that we need to be looking at. We really do need to be looking at value, and I really urge the businesses here to say, how can I actually make money out of this? Because it might change your perceptions.
Thank you. So that opportunity for value point to bottom out a little bit more. And the lady over here.
Hello, my name is Maria. I am an artist who is doing a project at the moment on the Thames called Thames Plastic. And I have a question to Tom about, do you think that companies like yourselves are kind of ready to start installing refilling stations on supermarkets? Because I use your products and I actually buy the 15-liter boxes. But I'm thinking about the people who don't have the space to have something as big as that in their house, and whether it might be easier just to take your bottle and refill it at the supermarket, and because you don't have to pay for the vessel, it will be much cheaper, and hence we will use less bottles. Is that something that is very far away in England? I know Germany is doing it, but I don't know about UK.
So first of all, we do have refill stations in about 1,000 stores, I think more 1,200 stores across Europe. So mainly UK, Belgium, France and Germany. But these, to be honest, these are like the smaller organic shops where indeed you can go and refill your bottle. We did like 2 times a test with retailers on bringing that into a retailer environment. The issue there is indeed, if you do that, it needs to be more sophisticated than the current solution we have. To be honest, the current solution that we have is like a tap where you need to press the bag, and so it can get messy if consumers are not careful. So we don't want that in retail, and that's hence we got a bit pushback from retailer as well, like I'm not going to get that system in my store. So we tested more sophisticated solutions where, it's existing technology. Basically, it takes like 1 meter shelf space. You scan the barcode, the machine knows, okay, this is like a washing up liquid, 1 liter. You put it in the machine, and the machine fills it with 1 liter washing up liquid. So we did the test. There were 2 issues. First of all, as consumers are not into the habit of bringing back their bottle, they always forgot to bring back the bottle, and so a lot of time consumers were there without a solution. And then secondly, there was a bit the cost issue of running such a machine. Hence I was saying, for us to make that machine profitable, we have compared to the big boys, we have honestly still a tiny business share in our category. So we couldn't make that financially work to kind of lease the machine and buy the technology. But if the whole shelf would be kind of using that machine and we would divide the costs over the different brands, it would be perfectly viable, perfectly doable. We need to get the retailers on board and all the brands. So if brands are really open to collaborate, that's what we should do. Yeah.
My local Budgeons, which is in N1, so it's in Islington, there's a huge Ecover section there with the whole recycling, so you can take your bottle in and replace it. So they must be more than one in London, but
Yeah, sure.
there's one 5 minutes from my house.
Yeah. So first of all, go there to begin with.
And what about the value point here? This thinking about the plastic as an opportunity for retrieving some of the value. Does anyone have any thoughts on that?
I mean, very much that was the point of our networks project, because nylon 6, which makes up these monofilament fishing nets, is a very high grade, high value nylon. So that was really capturing the value in that, and also in communities that don't have a waste infrastructure and where the need is desperate. So these communities where we've been working for years, average income is £600 a year. So this is the situation that David described. The Philippines is one of the top 5 plastic in the ocean contributors globally. So also, in terms of solving the problems, we have to find solutions in those really high plastic waste generators. And it's been encouraging to see some good recent commitments from countries like Indonesia that are actually starting to take it very, very seriously.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting point as well, the value equation, because wherever the waste gets a value, you'll see a kind of self-emerging economy that will build on picking up the waste. The problem is indeed that even for even in those poorer regions, often it's even not for those waste pickers that it gives them a proper income. So if you are able to create enough value of that waste material, you generate the income, which will kind of generate an economical system based on picking up the waste that's there. So that's how we kind of approach now our new generation of ocean plastic bottles. We try to set up those models, again, in different parts of the world, where we say to local communities, we kind of guarantee you a volume that we will buy from you. So there's like a small economy that's starting to build on that business demand, basically, which is the same as the interface example.
Thank you. So, Kate, I think you've got someone at the back there. Yep.
Hello, hi, Katrina from ISS. I've done some work in the catering world looking at cornstarch packaging for catering. I just wondered what your experience with that was. I've always found you can't close the loop on it, but I just wondered if you had any experience in that as well.
Does anyone want to pick up on cornstarch?
Yeah, I've had experience with that, and we're trying to get that out of the shop as well. It's so confusing for people, cornstarch is. It's great if you can create the behaviour change and take it all back into the right waste stream, but it's just impossible to try and get people to put coffee cup lids in the food bin. It goes against everything. It's hard enough to get them to put it in the recycling bin, but to put it in the food bin is it just didn't work for us at all. So it was an experiment that failed, and we learned from it.
So we do use cornstarch for our employees in catering, because we do have that's where I think you can control a little bit more the segregation of the different waste types. And so for us, we use cornstarch for all of our cutlery, and also we're looking at it for the plastic tops on our lids for coffee and stuff. But it's a massive one around education around where you should put the waste type. But I think if you're in a bit more controlled environment, which we do have for our catering in the business, is a good alternative at the moment.
Yeah, it's a bit the chicken and the egg there as well. Like there's not enough volume to create a specific stream for that type of material, so the material doesn't get a chance on the market. Well, if you want to step change that material equation, we'll need to crack that problem, because in the end, in those type materials, they won't create an ocean plastic problem as we know it today. So definitely part of the solution lies in dealing with that types of material as well.
Thank you. So, Kate, I know you've got one at the back there, but there's also one at the front and another one here. So can we take those three? And then I've got you after that, madam. Thanks.
Thanks very much. Isabel Hilton. I'm a journalist, and we cover China and India, very large sources of plastic pollution. It's a really interesting discussion, but I'm very struck by the fact that policy has played no part in it, despite the fact that we're talking about costs which are dumped on the public, and which can be, these cost-benefit balances can be changed through policy and legislation. If you look at what happens when you start charging people for plastic bags, even modest amounts, people stop buying them and discarding them in such quantities. Was policy not part of this because you don't see a policy option that would correct the market failure, or why?
Can we take the second one as well at the front here, Kate, the lady at the front, and then we'll take 3 and 4 after that.
Charlotte Breen from Grosvenor Estates. I just came across quite a wacky idea I thought I'd throw into the mix. There's a company called OHO, OOHO, exclamation mark, couple of nods, where you can eat the bottle after drinking the water because it's made out of seaweed. So.
I think I should put it out there that I am from OHO. So.
All right, thank you. So let's do, can we take the policy, the very pertinent policy question, and then OHO, maybe OHO over there as well. Can we do that first? Yeah. There was a couple of references to policy, actually. I think more from Fiona and perhaps from Heather. So I don't know if you want to take that first.
Yeah, I mean, we were discussing it with respect to there's no issue in Germany with respect to plastic water bottles, because they do have a system that's in place, and years and years ago we did also have a system in place with respect to glass bottles, and there's no when we're having a look at all the solutions and challenges, that definitely deposit return scheme is one of the things I think we need to really seriously consider about bringing that in place so that we could have a system that people are incentivised to do the right thing as well.
Yeah, I think, policy is, we're talking about a whole very big, very complex system where policy is one big piece of it. I think we're looking at governments worldwide who are really taking it as a whole policy agenda, and as I said, it's sort of driven by the overarching commitments from governments, which include ours. Some issues are not as straightforward as others, so the plastic bag tax worked incredibly well for reducing the amount of plastic going into the ocean in bags, but adding the same kind of addition to bottled water, which has a huge spectrum of costs, would not work in the same way. But microbeads is very much on the policy agenda to go through for a ban when there's perfectly good alternatives that make complete sense. I think the other sort of point with us thinking about the One Less campaign was very much there is also fatigue from the customer almost feeling victimised by legislative change that add costs or inconvenience to them. So we really took it as an ocean issue to look at what we could do more from the bottom up. And so although policy it feeds into things like recycling targets, litter targets, and many other policy commitments from government, either at London level or nationally or globally, but less looking at it and please add 10p to your water bottle, because that just wouldn't work. It's where things like commitments to bottle deposit schemes will help mobilise change.
And any comments on OHO? And then can the OHO lady stand up again so everyone can speak to you afterwards? Thank you. Yeah.
Well, I think for me that's exactly the material I was imagining indeed when I'm thinking about the new generation of materials.
Yeah.
Those are for me like the solutions that we should work towards. So I definitely admire that solution. I think it's great.
Thank you. Are you going to be around afterwards, OHO lady?
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're not supposed to be pitching our own businesses, but it was great hearing you talk about innovation. And I'm working with 2 guys from Imperial College who are design engineers who are exactly doing that and basically working out how we can take the fact that people like to take water on the go, and we don't always have an opportunity to take 50-litre things around with us, but how do we then create something that you can just get rid of straight away by eating it, or it's so naturally biodegradable it'll be gone in sort of a couple of weeks. So.
Thank you. So I'm conscious of the fact we're running quite tight for time now, but I know I've promised to the lady over there in white, but before that I've promised to somebody over here. So someone's already got the mic over here, this gentleman, and then I've just promised to that gentleman there who's had his hand up very persistently for a while. Thank you. We'll make that the last one. Thanks. Sir.
Hi there, it's Jonathan Gorman. I work for Tesco. You sell quite a lot of water. I have to say the thought of going back tomorrow to the business and saying we should stop selling water bottles is slightly unnerving, but exciting. I was just interested, Daniela, in terms of your experience. You talked about ending the use of, or the sale of single-use water bottles, but I wasn't entirely sure what the customer can now buy. You talked about reusers, you talked about water in Tetra Pak and in cans. So as a Selfridge customer, when I go in and I'm looking for water, just talk me through the practicalities of what the alternative offer now is for customers.
Yep, you can buy water in a can, you can buy water in a Tetra Pak, you can get complimentary water from a fountain in a reusable vessel. We also do glass. We still do glass, so there's a whole heap. I mean, we forecast. I think we forecast a 26% drop in sales. We had a 6% drop, but the cost per unit was actually higher for the glass bottles. They were bigger. So and our customers, we found that they switched. So we made up the losses quite quickly.
And the lady in white, have you got a mic yet? Sorry, Kate. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Kate Lavin from Informa. This is more of a customer perception, communications question, really. Around, most of us kind of see normally in summer, maybe a bit of scaremongering from certain media outlets around the fact that you should never reuse a plastic bottle, even if it's meant for reuse, because of the leaching of these terrible chemicals that cause cancer and all kinds of health problems. What can we do to counter that that argument, and what are you doing, sort of from your perspective, as sending out these plastic bottles to do that?
I don't know if anyone would like to take that one.
I mean, I think as long as you reuse your own bottles, you shouldn't be afraid of I mean, you know what's happened with that bottle, and so you're in control of that life cycle of the bottle. I mean, it's not if you like to pick up a bottle from a beach and start refilling it, then I would say, yeah, be careful. Because plastic that's been in the ocean for a while definitely kind of absorbs the toxic chemicals. So there is an issue with plastic that has been in the ocean for a longer time. It kind of gets kind of a sponge of absorbing other chemicals. Which was for us an issue, like trying to make an ocean bottle, making sure that that plastic wasn't contaminated. So there was kind of sorting to do. But as long as you kind of reuse your own bottles and materials, I personally don't see a reason. Food-wise, I know there's some legislation around contamination liabilities. So I know that can be tricky in retail, like who's liable for whenever there's a contamination when somebody's reusing containers. So probably the food guys are better placed to answer that one.
There is leaching from single-use plastic. They're designed for short-term use, so that's why it's better to use a refillable.
Thank you. And gentleman at the back there with the mic, last question to you, sir.
Yes, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Rowan Byrne. I'm from Mott MacDonald. I'm a marine biologist from Mott MacDonald. And I drive my bosses and my clients mental to try and find ways to deal with these sort of issues that we all focus, especially plastics. I'm extremely concerned about leaving a legacy that is something that is just, it defines our generation. So my question to you guys is, what sort of legacy would you like to leave to future generations when we're known as sort of the plastic generation, or the people who spawn all of these plastics? But just at an individual level, what sort of legacy would you like to leave?
I'm very glad you got that as the last question. That's fantastic. Who would like to go first?
I'd like this generation to see the tipping point. We no longer have the excuse that we don't know what's happening. We do. I think to go back to Jim's introduction of how much momentum is growing in just the last few months and how many more people are talking about it. I think this is the time where we can reverse things, and we need to reverse things. But what's exciting is there's a lot more people from different walks of life coming to have this conversation and to find solutions. I think people care, people know, and we can make a difference. So I'd like this generation, even in the current political climate, to be the one that actually starts making things better. And working with organisations like Selfridges, Interface, who've set their climate take-back mission, that's exactly where business needs to be.
For me, I think I'd love to be a generation that kind of finally understood that we cannot, as humanity, we cannot be detached from nature. We cannot put solutions out there which are detached from nature's logic. So getting back that kind of logic on how does nature work, what are the systems that have been working for these 3 billion years, as well, without any issues, and then suddenly we kind of disturb that thinking, we kind of mechanically steer everything. So like realizing like how important it is to live according to nature's systems and nature's way of doing.
So I think the biggest legacy I want to leave is the one that when we did with Sky Rainforest Rescue as well, is the understanding that we can't keep talking to ourselves, environmentalists can't keep talking to ourselves about the same issues, and that the biggest thing that I can bring in the role that I do is making as many people aware of the issues and the importance, and connecting them back to the oceans and the environment and what they can do to actually make a positive difference. Rather than the normal greenies, the normal environmentalists. So the biggest legacy, I think, is the mass reach, is to make every single person understand what connection they do have to the ocean and what we can do to reduce our impact.
Yeah, I guess mine's quite similar. For the biggest opportunity I have working for a communicator brand is that awareness and the behaviour change. But personally, I think it's the biggest legacy would be to have this kind of systemic realisation that this is a problem that we can solve. It's not like as complex as climate change. It's a solvable problem that we can fix if we do see the system, and if we sign up to one less at the back of the room.
Thank you. This is a problem we can solve. Fantastic way to finish. So before I hand over to Jim, can I just ask you please to thank the panel in the usual way?
What an inspiring end, and thank you for whoever asked that last question. It was brilliant. They say the expert is dead. I think that you guys have shown that the expert is very much alive and very attractive, because it's been a really honest, lovely conversation tonight. And I think we've probably in this room had a lot of the leading experts in this space on a problem that's growing, and that's been a real treat. I've been kind of thinking as I was listening to this conversation, as I often do, to what I hear on stage, and I put myself in the shoes of you guys, and I think, is this an issue that I would want to go back into my organisation and push hard on? So coming to your question about the bottled water at Tesco, and quite often I'm thinking, this is probably not one I'd want to push hard on. This is kind of one I'd want to make progress on, largely below the radar, because it's going to get a lot of pushback within the organisation. This issue feels different. It feels very real, visually real when you can see all this plastic. It's going into our bodies. We're eating it. And I think people respond very differently. It's very interesting hearing Fiona talk about your polling of your customers and how 80% of them wanted your next environmental area to be ocean plastic. This feels like an area where it's worthwhile going back to the organisation, where you're going to get a good reception, where people are going to get engaged. And I think that's exciting. So on that note, I'm going to ask you to thank these guys again.